What's going on, everyone? So one of the biggest requests that we get at WriteTech is people asking us how they could build their own application if they have no experience in coding. So what I thought I'd do today is I'll take you through a process on how to build your own application from scratch using no code at all, using the Bubble no code editor. There's a few different topics we're going to cover today in terms of building your different pages, your workflows between pages, and overall just designing your application. So before we even get started with Bubble, one thing I highly recommend before doing any sort of app project is first you need to start building out a workflow in terms of sort of like a flow chart around what you expect your application journey to look like. Here's a simple one I've created for today's tutorial. Basically, we're going to have a welcome screen. We'll have a sign up button. We will have a buy now button to purchase a widget. We're going to accept payment for said widget. And then once we've made our payment, the system will send us to a page where we can download the widget that we have purchased. Now, this is a very simple workflow. There are multiple processes that you would usually follow. So for example, yes, we're signing up, but what if the person's already signed up? Then we really want a branch off here to say log in instead of sign up. So this is the process that we're going to use for today's application that we're going to generate. And with that said, I will now jump over to Bubble. So first thing I recommend doing if you are new to Bubble and you also are new to application building, Bubble has a really great marketplace where there are a ton of pre-built templates that you can use, and you'll see exactly how we can use these as we go through. So the one that I am going to use today, I've already got it downloaded, but I will just show you on here. Is a template called the Mobile UI Kit. This is a really great template. If I jump into the preview, you'll see why. Essentially, it gives you a bunch of different screens that it's pre-created, so you can go and grab those and build your own application around these screens that they've already generated for you, and basically have all the building blocks that you need to create your very first application. Jumping back into my Bubble account. I'm going to create a new app, give it a name, so let's call this RTS sample app. I do want to start with the template. I'm going to start with the UI kit template. And let's just say we're doing building blocks. This would be external, and I'm going to build a tool for myself. Create new app. Now, once this generates, you'll see it does pop up usually with a little tutorial. I'm not going to worry about that right now. I'm just going to close the assistant because I know exactly where I want to go and what I want to build. One of the first things to understand is that up in the top corner here you have the list of all of your pages. Now, because I'm using the template, there's a bunch of pre-generated pages here for me, but we're going to create a few of our own pages as we go, and one of the most important ones for you to see is the components page. So you can see here this template has already given us a bunch of different components like buttons, text inputs, toggles, etc. that we can use. And if we go to the UI elements, then you'll see those examples that I had before as well. Now, next thing to be aware of, the index page is your first landing page. This is where users will first drop when they go to your URL or load your app. And so this is effectively our home screen. Now, because I'm building a mobile application, I'm just going to delete all of this quickly. I don't want any of this stuff here. And the other thing that I want to do is jump over to the UI elements, and I think I will use, let's use this one. So I'm just going to copy that whole element, jump back over to index and paste it. Now that I've pasted that, you can see, yes, it's on the page, but the page is still quite big for a mobile application. So if I double click on the back here, I can choose that the page preset is mobile. Okay, now we've got our element pasted into our mobile view. First thing I'm going to do, I'm just going to arrange this horizontally, and I might as well arrange it vertically as well. A couple of little elements here we don't need, we can get rid of those. Okay, so now we've got our welcome screen. So as you can see on this screen, they can enter their email address and their password to log in. They can do a forgot password, I won't worry about that today, and hit login, or they can sign up to a new account. So given we don't actually have a sign up page, we might want to build that. So let's go and create a new page. We're going to call this our sign up page, and let's clone it from index to start with. Cool. Now I'm just going to delete that group and jump back into my UI elements to go and see if there's a page we can use for sign up. So they've got a forgot password page we can use there. There we go, create account. Awesome. Let's grab that one, jump back over to our sign up page. Change the spec to mobile and bring our element into the screen. Cool. Once again, a couple of things to tidy up here. We'll get rid of that, and let's arrange this vertically and horizontally. Just fix up the spacing here a little bit. I'll need to go do that on my other page as well. Awesome. So now we've got to create account page. Let's go back to our process. So welcome, sign up. Next we're going to add a buy now page, a payment page, and then a download artwork page. So let's add a new page, and we will call this our buy now page. We will clone it again from our let's use our sign up page. Cool. Now, last page that we're going to need is our download artwork page. I will show you how we handle the payment in a moment. So let's just tidy this one up a little bit. So I'm going to be selling our logo. So let's say buy our logo. And we can get rid of all of these elements. We don't need them. I'll keep that button because I'm going to use that as my buy now button. And I'm going to swap out this image. For a picture of our logo. Cool. We'll just arrange that again. And we're going to change this to say buy now. After the person purchases our logo, we want to let them actually download it. So we're going to create a download page. And we'll just clone that from the buy now page. Download now. Awesome. So now we have our core page structure in place. We have our index page where people are going to land. We have our sign up page for people who don't have an account. We have our buy now page, and we have our download logo page. So let's start adding a bit of logic into these pages so that they're more than just some pretty pictures. We'll start on our index page. First thing we can see here, if we double click on the email address, then we get this kind of contextual menu where we can start making a few decisions. So you can see the template's actually already set it up pretty well. It said that the content type is email. It said that the initial content is email address, although I'm going to change that because I prefer that being in the placeholder section. Otherwise, when people type in it, it actually starts with the word email address and can cause issues. Same with password. I'm going to change that and put that in the placeholder text. Cool. And you can see that that's already assigned. Well, actually, in fact, this case, it's not. Content format is text. Let's change that to password. But with email, it was already set to email address. So that's great. Now, one of the cool things about Bubble is it pre-generates a small database for you. It also generates a user database from scratch. So it'll automatically know that if somebody enters their email here, it's associating that to a user, and because I've set it password, it will be associating that same password to the user that we put in that email address. So if our users have an existing account, they can come in and they can enter their email and password and hit login, and that will take them to the next step, although we will actually have to set that up. I will come back to that, but we do want to let them sign up if they haven't already got an account. So to do that, we're going to double click here, and we're going to say start edit workflow. Now, the workflow system can get really complicated. We're going to keep it pretty simple today and just use some really basic workflows. But essentially the way they work is we've got an initial statement that we want the system to understand, and then we have a result that we want the system to do. So you can see here, it's already highlighted that text that I double clicked on before, and we can add an action. So I'm just going to move this to the other side. So what we want to do here is we want to navigate them to a page, and the page we want to navigate them to is our sign up page. We don't need to do anything else in any of these settings, and it will automatically save those settings for us. Now, at any point in time, we can hit preview. So we can preview what we've just set up. We can see here now, if we click anywhere on this box, it should jump us through to our sign up page. There we go. Awesome. Simple as that. Now, a couple of things that get a little more complicated, but still pretty straightforward. The login button. We want to add in workflow here. if login is clicked, and you can see even if I highlight there, it shows me the button we're talking about. I want to perform an account action, which is to log the user in. Now, it's going to ask me, okay, well, what email and password am I going to use to log the user in? So luckily, we've already got some buttons set up. We have input email address, and we want to use the input email address's value. And we have a password. We want the input password's value. Users stay logged in, yes. Remember the email, can if we want. Let's say yes, make life a bit easier for our users, and we don't need to worry about any of these other settings. So now that we've done that, if we go back to our page, the email address and password that are put in here when the user hits login will be used to check against the Bubble database. And if the Bubble database finds that email and password combination, then it will log the user in. If it doesn't, then automatically it will throw an error. We could tidy up that error page, but we'll worry about that in a future tutorial. So what about signing up? Well, signing up is very similar. Once again, let's tidy up some of these settings. So I'm going to say name, get rid of this initial content, and we can just leave that as text. That's totally fine. Last name, I'm going to change to last name on here. Get rid of that. That can be text as well. Email address, email, and we want that to be an email address, and we want them to create a password. And we're going to set that to be password. Great. Now we'll set this input should not be empty because they must have a password, and we're going to set that the email should not be empty as well. These other ones we could change, but I'm not going to worry about them so much. Now, one more thing I recommend we do on this page, just to make life a little bit easier for ourselves, is I'm going to change the labels of some of these elements, so it's a bit easier later on to find exactly which inputs are which, so I don't get confused and select the wrong one and cause errors for myself down the line. So I'm just going to label all of these the sign up version, so that way if I need to reference them separately, I can. Cool. Now we can edit the workflow for this button so that we can sign the user up. So the action we want to perform when they click this Let's Get Started button is we want to do an account sign the user up. At the moment in our database, email and password are the only two required fields. So we can click on here and we can find those various fields. Sign up, input email, and we want to use the input email's value. And same with password, sign up, input password, value. Require password confirmation, we won't worry about that. We could set up an email to confirm password, not going to worry about that for today either. So now users can sign up. We can preview and test to make sure that that actually works. Let's get started. Cool. So let's check and see if that worked. We'll go back to our editing view, and if we go into the data tab and go to app data, we should see, great, test@test.com. There is that test account that I've just created. But we did miss a step in the workflow. So let's get started, edit, we've signed the user up, but we also want to log the user in. So we can just use that exact same input. So we can say we want to use that email value and we want to use the passwords value. Stay logged in, yes, that's fine. We'll say yes as well. And the way the workflows operate in Bubble is they literally, as it says here, go step by step. So step 1, it will sign the user up. Step 2, it will log the user in. So we don't need to worry about the fact that at this stage, do we have an email and password? Because we know we will, because we've already signed the user up. So the system will go in, it will create the user in the database, and then after doing that, it will immediately log the user in. So we've told it to sign us up, we've told us to log in, but what next? What do we want it to do after it logs us in? Well, what we want to do is we want to navigate to a new page. And in this case, we want to navigate them to the Buy Now page. We don't have any data to send, so that's fine. We don't need to send any current page parameters, so that's fine. We can basically leave the rest of that. So now that we've done that, we can test and see if it's all working. We can go preview again, and we can create a new user here. Let's get started, and if that all operates correctly, it should jump us over to the Buy Now page, which it does. Great. Awesome. So we've got a sign up process and we have a login process, although if we go and check our login workflow, we need to also add a navigation here to navigate through to the Buy Now page. Cool. So users can now come to our application. If they have an account, they can log in with their email and password. If they don't have an account, they can click sign up and be taken through to our sign up page. We might just, to finish off that particular process, set up a workflow here so that if they click on that piece of text, we will navigate them back to the index page. So now we've got a nice little circular process where they can log in or sign up depending on if they're an existing user or not. Next step, we're going to go to our Buy Now page. So on this page, the idea is we want people to be able to purchase this logo. Maybe we'll add a little bit of text here, just drag and drop. As you can see, it's that easy. And I'll just say, buy our logo now for $10. Click the button below to get started. Cool. So what we want to do here is we want people to be able to click on this button and they will be taken to a page where they can enter their credit card information. And then once they've entered their credit card information and we've confirmed that they have paid, then we are going to send them to the download page where they can actually download the files for this particular logo. Now, there are multiple different ways that you could set up the Buy Now button. I'm going to use the Stripe integration. So to do that, we're going to go into plugins. We're going to go add plugin. We can say deselect all categories, and I just want to see the payment category. And we're going to install the Stripe plugin. Great, that's there. Now you're going to need to go in and fill out all of your different keys from your Stripe account. There are instructions, if you click this reference button, where to find these various keys and things. I will just fill those in quickly now, and then I will come back to the recording. Okay, so we're back. I've gone in and I've set up and configured my Stripe account. If you need a hand with how to configure your Stripe account, feel free to drop a message in the comments and we can talk you through exactly how to do that. I'm not going to show it on screen because the keys are private keys that we can't share. But like I say, if you need a hand, just reach out. So what we're going to do now is we're going to set this buy button up to actually create a transaction. We're going to hit Start Edit Workflow. So what we want to do now is we want to create a purchase. So you'll see here one of our options is payment, and we're going to say we want to charge the current user. Now by default you'll see it automatically comes up with the information that we need to fill in. So we need the user's email, but it already has picked up that we're just going to use the current user's email. So obviously this user is going to have to be logged in. An amount, now we can get pretty clever with these amounts, have them dynamically populate depending on what products people are selecting, but I'm just going to put a hard-coded value of $10 in there. The name is the name of the product, so I'm just going to say RTS logo, and in fact we can kind of just copy that for most of these. We'll say RTS logos for the description. We'll upload a picture of the logo that can go on the page, and we'll just say RTS logo for the statement descriptor as well. These all need to be filled in for a purchase to be allowed to go through the Stripe system. We don't want to just authorize the charge, we actually want it to charge the customer. We also don't need to worry too much about any of these other settings, they're all good. So that's fine. So we've set up that we're going to charge the current user, but then once we've charged them, we want them to be navigated back to a different page, which is the download logo page. So now with this workflow, essentially what we've done is we've said, okay, we're going to charge the user. That's actually going to send them off to a Stripe page, which is going to get them to input their credit card details. And then once they've input their credit card details, if Stripe detects that they have successfully made the purchase, it will send them back to our application. And then once it sends them back to our application is going to say, okay, now redirect to the download logo page. I will show you that in a preview in a moment, but before we do that, let's just finish up that particular process by going to our download logo page. And we're going to set up this page so that it can actually download the file the user has now just purchased. So first thing we want to do is we want to actually load the file into our Bubble system. To do that, we can just come over to the file manager and we can upload a file. I'm going to grab my logo file here. Cool. And now that the file is loaded, we can right click on it and we can say copy link address to get access to that particular link. Now, one mistake I realized I made earlier is I set this up as a button, but actually what we want to do is we want to set this up as a link. So in here we have the link option. We can drag and drop here and we can change this to download now. The link destination is going to be an external URL and it's going to be that URL that we just copied. We don't need to open in a new tab. We do want it to be clickable. No follow is fine. That's all good. This element, yep. So all of those settings are fine. But that button doesn't look particularly great. So we might want to pretty it up a little bit. To tidy it up, we want to go into styles. So we can choose from the existing styles. I'm just going to use the default button link for now. but then we can go in and we can edit that style as well. So if we go down here, and in fact let's just type button. So you can see here's our primary button. I'm going to grab the colors from that primary button and I'm going to copy it over to my button link so that it looks the same. I'm going to also just double check the roundness on this one is set to 24 and everything else looks good, so let's copy that over. Roundness we're going to change to 24. I'm going to drop that padding because we don't want that, and I'm going to check everything else was the same. That was 19, I believe. So let's replicate that, and that used the 600 version. Cool. So now we have a button that's starting to look the same as our standard button, but it is actually our link button. Awesome. Now if we go back to our design, you'll see it is updated automatically. One last thing we could do just for a bit of consistency is if we go back to our index and check the height of this button, it is 46 and 200 wide. So let's replicate that on our download button. 46, oops, 46 and 200. Cool. Edit our style and see if we can center the text vertically. There we go. Let's do that and see if that will play nice. Awesome. There we go. So now our download button looks the same as the other buttons on our site, so it looks a bit more consistent. And we have set it up so that when they click it, they will download that file that we just created. So let's give all of that a test and see if that is working as expected. So let's start on our index page and go preview. I don't have an account, so I'm going to sign up for one. That takes me to my sign up page. I can put in some stuff here. In fact, let's keep an eye on that password so I can test my login later on. Let's get started. So that's brought us through to our Buy Our Logo page as expected. We can now hit the Buy Now button. That should jump us through to Stripe. There we have it. We're Stripe. I've set this up to go to our test mode version of Stripe. So I can put in some test credit card information that Stripe gives us. So I'll just fill that in quickly. So I filled in the test credit card details that Stripe gives you access to when you want to test applications like this. So I can hit Pay. And as long as I've done everything correctly, that should send us back to the page and then jump us through to the download page. Great, your credit card was charged successfully, okay. And now it jumps us across to the download. If we hit download, that should download our file. There it is. Awesome. So as you can see there, a reasonably straightforward process for creating a simple application that lets us go into a page, find an item we want to purchase, be sent through to a credit card processor, actually accept payment for that product, and then be delivered back to the page where we can download the asset that we've just paid for. So we've covered the basics, but there are a few little extra pieces that we'd want to add in here that are slightly more advanced functions that really just start securing our application a little bit better. So first of all, this page is completely insecure at the moment. The reality is that if anybody found the URL to this page, they could get through to it and they could hit this download button and basically download the item for free. So let's tweak that in the workflows a little bit to prevent that from being able to happen. So to do that, we jump back into the designer. So the first thing I'm going to do to work towards securing the application a little bit better is I'm going to go and add a field into the database that allows me to record whether the user that's logged in has actually completed the purchase successfully or not. So to do that, I'm going to go to data, I'm going to go to data types, and we've only got one data type at the moment, which is our user, but I'm going to create a new field, which I'm going to call purchase complete, and I'm going to make it a yes/no field. No, this won't have multiple entries, so that's fine. And just for consistency, let's capitalize those. Create. And I'm going to set the default value to no. So this way, every time somebody first creates their user account, they're going to have this default value of purchase complete set to no. Now you can probably see where I'm going with this. I'm going to jump over to my Buy Now page, and I'm going to tweak the workflow. So now I'm going to update my workflow by adding an extra step after we charge the current user, and I want to go into a thing that I want to change. I want to make a change to a thing, and the thing I want to make a change to is the current user. And I want to make a change to their purchase complete field, and I want to change that to yes. So now if we look at this process again, we're going to charge the current user. If that step is successful, and it's going to change the status of that purchase complete field to yes, and then it's going to send the user to the download logo page. Now, one other thing I'm just going to change in here that I noticed before is I do not want to show the success message. That kind of messed up my workflow, so I'm just going to turn that off. Now we can jump over to our download logo page, and we can make a tweak to this button. We want to add a condition to it, and we're going to say when current user purchase complete is no, this element is visible, and we're going to leave that unchecked. So what have we done here? Basically what we've said is that if they somehow make it through to this page, but they still have the purchase complete is no value against their user account, then this button is just going to disappear completely. That way we prevent them from downloading the files even though they've made it through to this page somehow, and they'll have to go back to be able to complete the purchase to download the files. So what we might want to do is we might want to add another button in here. And we're just going to say go back. We'll set up a navigation to send them back to the Buy Now page. And the change we're going to make to this one is we're going to set up a condition that's the opposite of the other one that we used. So we're going to say if the current user's purchase complete is no, element is visible, yes. So now with this one, If they make it to this page somehow and their purchase complete is set to no, they're just going to get this go back button, which will send them back to the buy now page. And just to be safe, we're going to update this one, and I'm actually going to add another condition, which may be a bit of overkill, but makes me feel better about knowing that this is all going to work. So I'm going to say if purchase complete is yes, then the element is visible, and I'm going to tick that box there and make sure I turn that condition on. So now if they get through to this page and they haven't made a purchase, this button's going to be visible. If they have completed the purchase, this button's going to be visible. One other change I'm going to make, just because I've had some weird results with Bubble on this, is I am going to add the opposite condition in here as well. So I'm going to say if current user's purchase complete is yes, then this element is visible, and I want that turned off, so that's fine. Turn that on. So now if purchase complete is no, then that button is going to show because I have element visible, and if the purchase complete is yes, then that button is going to be hidden. So now we've got our two buttons there to redirect them appropriately. So I've jumped into an incognito window just to double check what happens if people somehow manage to make it through to this page. And as you can see, if they make it through to this page somehow, even though they're not logged in, they only get this go back button. They can't actually download the logo. They can go back. And so what I can see here actually is that sending them to the buy now page is wrong. At this stage, they don't actually have any user credentials. So I need to tweak that workflow, which is easy enough. I can go to my download page, and I can tweak the workflow for this one. Instead of sending them to the buy now page, we want to send them back to the index page. Cool. So guys, there we have it. A really simple application which lets you go through and purchase a widget, process credit card detail, and then send the user through to a page where they can download the file. And as you saw, we added a little bit of extra security there to prevent users that somehow make it through to that page from being able to download that particular file as well. This is a really simple application, but as you can see, we've covered a number of different functions there. So we've covered how to build workflows, we've covered how to set up downloads, we've covered how to actually send people to have their credit card processed, and we've set up a file structure and some additional database elements to add a little bit of extra security around our application. These are all the basic building blocks that you need to know about Bubble in order to start designing your own pages, creating your own workflows. And yes, you can get a lot more complicated from here, but as you can see, pretty simple to get a really basic application up and running. And what's even better, I haven't had to do any coding anywhere along the way. It's all been drag and drop and using a pre-built template for me to make my life a whole lot easier. So hopefully this has given you a running start on how to build your own application using Bubble. But if you have any questions, feel free to drop them in the comments. If you need to add a bit of extra complexity that I haven't shown today, feel free to drop that in the comments and we can talk you through how to do that as well. Bubble is pretty impressive in terms of the amount of complexity it can handle. You can build some pretty complicated processes and workflows within it. So as I say, let us know if you need a hand with anything and we can talk you through how to design your specific application using Bubble. If you found this video helpful or you would like to see more videos like this, please drop a like and subscribe to let us know. Drop something in the comments to tell us what else you'd like to see, and we will create some more tutorials like these either in Bubble or we could use other applications as well. So let us know what you'd like to see and we can go from there.